Hello and welcome again to another edition of Sports Cigars and Coffee. We are 2 weeks away from Christmas. Can you believe that? 2 weeks away from Christmas. Crazy. Which means the NFL is going about to get serious. So we're going to be taking a look at Week 13 last week. Look ahead to this upcoming weekend, Week 14. Last night we had the Patriots beat the Steelers. I don't know what to think of the Steelers. I don't know. They lose 2 weekends in a row to the Cardinals and to the Patriots. They're now 7-6. Um, Last night they just really, I don't know. They just look like a team that's lost. It looks like Tomlin has lost the locker room. I know there's Steeler fans that want him fired, but I don't know. The Steelers. The Steelers don't fire head coaches. They've had three since 1969, with the previous two retiring on their own. So we'll see. We'll see how the Steelers can close the season out here with with 4 games left. Can they get into the playoffs? We also have the NCAA college football playoff is set. We'll talk about that. So let's dive right into the NFL. Last week really there was a few good games, few good matchups, but nothing. It wasn't like a weekend where there was good game after good game after good game. Uh, we did have the 49ers as boat race to the Eagles, 42-19. And that was after the Eagles held them to -6 yards and no points in the first quarter. The Texans snapped the Broncos' winning streak. The Broncos did win 5 in a row, and now they are 6-6 in the playoff mix. The Green Bay Packers took care of the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know what to make of the Chiefs. They defeated them on Sunday Night Football, 27-19. And the Bengals stayed alive in the playoff hunt with a big 34-31 overtime win against the Jaguars, in which Trevor Lawrence went down with an ankle injury, and it's unknown if he's going to be playing this week. So last week we had the Broncos Texans game. I did pick the Texans 19-17. The Texans did come out on top 22-17. The Lions and the Saints, I had the Lions winning that one 24-13. And the Saints against the Saints, and the Lions won 33-28. The Sunday night game, I had the Packers and the Chiefs. I had the Chiefs winning 28-20, and the Packers end up winning 27-19. And then I had the Bengals Jags game. I had the Jags taking that one 31-16, and the Bengals actually won in overtime 34-31. Looking at the NFL after last week and after last night's game, a lot of mediocre teams, a lot of 6-6 teams, 7-6 teams that are in the hunt. That in a normal year probably wouldn't be in the hunt. It's good that there's that extra playoff spot now. It just seems like this year there's a big gap between like you know, the top teams like the 49ers, the Eagles, the Ravens, Kansas City, Dallas, the Lions, Jaguars, all those teams and the Ravens. It seems like those are the teams I think are the Super Bowl teams. And then after that, it's just a huge drop to the next group. Uh, you know, Now we know 14 teams are going to get into playoffs, and we know 2 teams are going to end up in the Super Bowl. Uh, and as Bill Parcells would say, just get in the tournament and anything can happen. But is it me, or is this year just seem like a weird, mediocre year? Quarterback play there's good quarterback play. There's quarterback play that's excellent for a game or two, but there isn't that elite quarterback. week in, week out, week in, week out this year. So I don't know if defenses have caught up to the quarterbacks, but I don't know. We're gonna take a look and see how the playoffs go. If the playoffs started today in the AFC, the number one seed, the Miami Dolphins, the number two seed, Baltimore Ravens would be hosting the Houston Texans, the seven seed. The number three seed, Kansas City Chiefs, would be hosting the number six seed, Indianapolis Colts. Who would have thought? And the number four seed, Jacksonville Jaguars, would be hosting the number five, Cleveland Browns. Now, the thing with uh, the AFC is you have Miami, the Ravens, Jaguars, Kansas City. After each week, they could rotate because they're all within a game or tied, and it's who has the tiebreaker. This week, we do have a preview of a uh, playoff possible preview with the Jaguars and the Browns, and we'll talk about that later. Uh, I don't know. For Miami, they have to get the number one seed. Miami has to. Miami cannot travel to Baltimore or Kansas City uh, for the playoffs. Because we don't know how the weather is going to be. We don't know how the winds are going to be. We don't know any of that stuff. So Miami needs the number one seed. Same as Jacksonville. I think those two teams in the AFC need it more because Baltimore and Kansas City could go on the road and, and beat people. I'm not sure if Jacksonville and Miami can. The NFC, as of right now, after last week, Philly's still the number one seed. They have a one game lead on the 49ers. The 49ers would be hosting Green Bay. Look at that. Green Bay in the playoff hunt. The Detroit Lions at three would be hosting the six seed Minnesota Vikings. And the NFC South team of the week, the Atlanta Falcons, would be hosting the Dallas Cowboys, who would be the fifth seed. That would be the 4-5 game. Still a lot of football left. Still a lot of games to be played, especially this week. We got some big games this week with playoff implications. We have the Colts and Bengals. We have the Jaguars Browns, like I mentioned before. We have the Seahawks 49ers, and we have the Bills Chiefs. For the Colts and Bengals, I do like the Colts to take that one 17-13. I do like the Jags to win 21-17, but I don't know who's going to be quarterbacking the game for either team. Could be Joe Flacco for the Browns. I'm not sure if Trevor Lawrence is going to be starting. I do like I do like the Jags no matter who the quarterback is. Let's just put it that way. Seahawks 49ers. I like the 49ers 31-20. I think they complete the sweep of the Seahawks. And then we have the Bills Chiefs. This game is a toss up because I don't know what Josh Allen's going to show up. Is it the Philadelphia Josh Allen or is it the Josh Allen that has the three turnovers a game? I am going to pick Kansas City in a touchdown 34-27. Now I know who we all thought Buffalo was going to be uh, in the playoffs, but right now they're looking out. And I'm not sure what to make of the Bills. We had Sean McDermott controversy this week that has come out. It appears in 2019. He compared team chemistry and team building and working together to the terrorists that bombed 9/11. I'm not sure what kind of analogy he was going for, but apparently um, it happened, and then he did apparently apologize to the team the next day after it happened. So I'm not sure why this is a story 4 years later. You know, but it's out there, and he had to do an uncomfortable press conference apologizing. Are these the seeds to move on from him, especially if they don't make the playoffs? I don't know. The Bills and Steelers, I expect more from this year. I'm disappointed in those teams this year. Uh, you know, Coaching changes not necessarily fix everything. Uh, I suspect the Bills may move on from McDermott, but I think the Steelers won't move on from Tomlin as long as Tomlin ends his loyalty to some of these coaches and players. Because Mike Tomlin was loyal too long to Matt Canada. So we'll see how that offseason goes. In the Monday night game, we got the Packers and the Giants. So the Packers have to go up against the Paisan. Uh, the Packers, this is a big game for the Packers to stay in the playoff hunt. Uh, the Giants, should they win? Should they lose? Should they tank? Should they win? The guys on the team want to play because they're playing possibly for their next team. They're playing for next year. So I like the Packers to take this one 34-20. I think, as much as a great story Tommy DeVito is, I think Monday night he will lose to Jordan Love. So let's talk about the MVP race. Who's your MVP right now? I right now my MVP is Tua. I think Tua is the MVP, and I think Tua number one, Lamar Jackson number two, Pat Mahomes three, Jalen Hurts four, and Christian McCaffrey five. And looking on the outside at number six, I have Tyreek Hill. So we'll see how that shapes out. Uh, you know, the MVP should go to the best player, not necessarily the best quarterback on the best team. Defensive player of the year, I think it's Myles Garrett's to lose at this point. And I think the top three are Parsons and Watt. But Watt got a concussion, so he's in concussion protocol. I don't see anybody else getting defensive player of the year besides Myles Garrett this year. In fact, some people may have him in the MVP voting. My coach of the year this year so far is D'Amico Ryans. Uh, number Shane Stenchen and Kevin O'Connell are 2 and 3. As the year goes on, we may see we may see LaFleur, we may see McVay. Who knows? Uh, so who's your defensive player of the year? Who's your league MVP? Who is your coach of the year? Because now we're hitting that period. How do you think the NFL playoffs are going to shake out? We had a huge one Sunday night, the Eagles and Cowboys. Now I did read that even if the Cowboys win and become tied with the Eagles at 10-3, if both win out, the Eagles still win the division. I don't know how true that is. I just read that in an article. Uh, so hopefully the Eagles make it easy. They make the adjustments. They do what they got to do, and they just got to run the football. DeAndre Swift having only 6 carries against 49ers is an embarrassment. They got to come out and run the football. I think between Swift, Gainwell, and Hurts, there has to be at least 20 to 25 runs. That's my opinion. Defensively, they look lost. They were confused with the motions and the meshes and the picks and the crossings by the 49ers. So Cowboys run a different system. But the last time they played, CeeDee Lamb had like 180 yards. So we'll see. Hopefully the Eagles rebound. The last time they lost a game, they rebounded to win 5 in a row. So hopefully that's what happens here. They got. I want them to get the division and the number one seed before they play that last game at MetLife in New York, that MetLife Stadium, that horrible turf that should be ripped up. The NFL is worried about injuries on the tush push, but why don't we worry about injuries on turf? I want to see that data. But the NFL, they say they don't care. They just care about the entertainment. They care about appeasing to their fantasy football people. They care about appeasing to their sponsors, and they care about appeasing to the gamblers out there. That's why they want to get rid of the brotherly shove, because it's not entertainment. Well, the object is to not be entertaining. The object is to win a football game by 1 point more than your opponent by any means necessary. If that means winning 7-6, That means win 46-45, whatever it takes. If you have to throw 50 times, run 50 times, whatever it takes. That's the object of football. It's not to entertain people. It's not to entertain the fantasy football people. It's not to make the gamblers happy, because the NFL coaches and players owe nothing to the fantasy players, and they owe nothing to the gamblers. So that's my soapbox uh for today. Uh, so now we have the college football playoffs are set. We have in the Rose Bowl, we have number one Michigan hosting number four Alabama, and number two Washington versus number three Texas in the Sugar Bowl. Now, I predicted Alabama was going to win the conference game, the conference championship game against Georgia. I did not anticipate Georgia being left out. I thought Georgia would lose and be the 4 seed, Alabama would be the 3 seed, Washington 2, Michigan 1. I did not anticipate Georgia getting left out. After Georgia was left out and then Alabama was put in and we had Florida State people cry, at first I thought Florida State got hosed. But the more I looked at it, it's the four best teams when the final rankings are announced. The four best teams. And Florida State's not one of the four best teams. They're not. They're not one of the four best teams with their starting quarterback or without. They're not. They're not. They're just not. I think if it was Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Georgia, I would have been okay with that. If it, and then if Georgia won, if it was Michigan, Georgia, Washington, Texas, I would have been okay with that. Um, we needed this. Us Penn Staters needed this committee in 2016 when they went with the four best teams. If this committee was on the 2016 committee, Penn State would have made the playoffs instead of Ohio State, because they were one of the four best teams at the time of the final rankings. But that committee decided to take Ohio State um, for whatever reason. So. Uh, I think Alabama wins this. I'm looking at this. I think Alabama takes this whole thing, and I have been saying it since the end of October till today that somebody better kill Alabama. They're in the grassy knoll. They're ready to attack, and somebody better put them away. Because if they don't, they're going to win this whole thing. And look where they are. They're in the Final Four. They're going to win this whole thing. When it's all said and done, Alabama is going to be hoisting the championship trophy. Then the other New Year's 6 games were announced, and we had the Fiesta Bowl. We have Liberty and Oregon. Not sure why they put the highest Group 5 winner in. To me, just put the top 12, and then you have 1 to 4, and then just match 5-12, 6-11, 7-10, 8-9. Boom, there's your 4 bowls. There's your other bowls. Um, but Liberty and Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. Uh, the Orange Bowl, Georgia and Florida State. I've been seeing some rumblings on Twitter that people are calling for Florida State to boycott the Orange Bowl. Not sure what that would prove. Uh, Cotton Bowl, Ohio State and Missouri. And then we have the Peach Bowl, Ole Miss versus Penn State. College football is not the same. No, next year is going to be different. Those New Year's 6 games are going to be playoff games, and the first round on campus. So, college football will never be the same after this year. It's good that we're going to 12 teams because, here it is, 12 teams. Your conference champions, automatic bids, and then the highest rank, and then the at-large bids are your highest ranked teams. Uh, but what's interesting with college football now is this transfer portal. It just seems like every body. It's not like the old days where you work to get on the field. Now players are transferring. Like, I'm so surprised that Kyle McCord, the starting quarterback for Ohio State, is transferring. Went in the portal and he's going to Nebraska. Julian Fleming, the top player a few years ago, who spurned his home state school, Penn State, to go to Ohio State, is in the transfer portal. Rumors are he may follow McCord to Nebraska. There's just I the transfer portal was set up for college students like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's transfer portal was used appropriately. Uh, he wanted to go somewhere else. He went into the portal, and now he ended up at LSU. Now the portal is used as a free agent uh, negotiations. You know, what player is going to get NILs? What player is going to get um, deals? You know, the transfer portal's not being utilized how it should be utilized. The transfer portals for the grad student, you know, the 50 year senior, the 60 year senior grad student who has a year of eligibility left, and they want to go closer to home. That's what the transfer portal was for. Was for those grad assistants who had an extra, like Russell Wilson did, played, got it, played his 3 4 years at NC State, had 1 year left, and he went to Wisconsin. That's what the transfer portal was for, not a free agent frenzy, not a free agent free for all. They really got to get a grip on this, uh, because now you're gonna have boosters and local companies and regional companies calling up players and saying, "Hey, if you transfer here, we're gonna guarantee you $1 million a year. We're gonna guarantee you a $5 million, uh, you know, likeness deal." Uh, I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me. Um, Once the player says he's going to transfer, that's fine. Then they can do that. But to be contacting players, to me, that's wrong. Um, but college football, you know, the NCAA, the second most corrupt organization in sports, next to the Olympic Committee, uh, followed by the third most corrupt organization in sports is the PIAA. So nothing's going to happen. This is why I'm for each sport having their own commissioner and their own governing body. Football has their own, baseball and softball has their own, women's and men's basketball has their own, hockey, men's and women's hockey has their own, wrestling has their own. Those are the major sports. Then the sports that are in season for the fall, like golf or soccer, field hockey, swimming, in the winter, you know, all those winter sports and all the spring sports like track and field and cross country, all those sports where those kids work hard, they get their scholarship, they deserve it, they work hard, they go to school. Um, I think each of those sports could be lumped into their seasonal. Fall, winter, spring have their own governing body. The NCAA is too stupid. They're too incompetent to run everything. But that will never happen because there's too much money involved. As long as money talks, uh, college sports is going to be headed to a professional minor league development league. And that wasn't the intention of the NCAA. The intention of the NCAA was to keep amateurism uh, while going to school, while playing sports. But we all know money talks. When you see these TV deals of $1 billion, conferences, realignment, you know, football could handle realignment because when Penn State has to travel to LA to play UCLA, they're going to leave on Friday or Saturday, or they're going to leave on Friday, and then to get there, maybe Thursday. But then they come back Saturday night after the game, and then they're back home Sunday. Now, a basketball team or a field hockey team, these weekday sports play on a Tuesday, so they have to leave on a Monday. They get there, they leave on a Monday, maybe Sunday, play the game on Tuesday, get back on Wednesday, and then have to play another game. Now what happens when? So what are they going to do with Penn State and Rutgers? What are and the Midwest teams? What are they going to do? They're going to fly out to LA, or they're going to play USC in baseball, then UCLA, and then go up to Washington and Oregon. That's a week and a half trip when they're supposed to be in school, which is totally against everything amateurism is supposed to be. So I think realignment. I think each conference should be a regional conference. I think there should be a Northeast conference, the Southeast conference. You have a the Big Ten in the Midwest, the Big 12, and the Pac 12. I think you create a Northeast, so you have six. So you have six automatic bids to playoffs, and then six at-large bids, and that's what I think. I think, but I'm not in charge of the NCAA. I never will be. So uh, no one's going to listen to me. But that's my thoughts on the NCAA. Uh, The Heisman is tomorrow. Michael Penix Jr. is probably going to win. Marvin Harrison Jr. should win because Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in college football. He's the best college wide receiver coming into the NFL that I've seen in the last 25 years. His route running is precise. He catches everything. A 50-50 ball to him is really an 80-20 ball. He catches everything. Yeah, I know wide receivers, they drop time to time, but he doesn't have a problem dropping. He catches everything. He's smooth. He glides. So I think he's the best college player in football. Not necessarily the best player is going to have the best stats. He's carried Ohio State. He's the reason why they, you know, why they were 11-0 going into the last game. He's the reason why their offense, which was mediocre, to me, without Marvin Harrison, Ohio State offense is like the '86 Penn State offense. Honestly, Penn State had a decent tight end, one decent receiver, a good, very good running back in DJ Dozier, and a quarterback who you just told him don't screw up. That's what the '86 Penn State was. This year, this year was the same thing. Kyle McCord was decent, was good, didn't really make a huge mistake. They had a decent offensive line, a good tight end, okay running game, but Marvin Harrison Jr. carried them. Without Marvin Harrison Jr., their Ohio State has probably 2, 3 losses. You know, so take that's what I believe. So let's talk about the NFL business tier. Um, so we're gonna go bottom up. We're gonna go to the unpaid interns. We got the Patriots, Panthers, and Cardinals as our unpaid interns. Our office hourly employees, we have the Titans, the Raiders, the Giants, the Commanders, the Bears, and Tampa Bay. For the team leaders, we have the Jets, the Steelers, the Chargers, and the Saints. The regional managers, we have the Bengals and the Falcons. The assistant regional vice presidents, we have the Bills, the Broncos, the Vikings, and the Packers. The regional vice presidents, we have the Browns, the Colts, Texans, the Rams, and the Seahawks. And that whole group, that assistant regional and the regional vice president, that's that group that are, 7-5, 6-6. Uh, there's that group that who's going to separate themselves from that group. The CFO, I have the Jaguars, the COO, Miami, Kansas City, Philly, Dallas, Detroit, and the CEO, right now, the CEO, the Ravens, and the 49ers. Those are the teams right now that are playing the best, I think. A lot of football left. I'm not throwing dirt on Philly. I'm not throwing dirt on Dallas. I'm not throwing dirt on Kansas City by any means. I think those three teams are, capable of going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. I think anybody from the CFO up can go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Even Detroit. But we're going to see how they handle the bright lights. We're going to see how they handle prime time. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out when they make the playoffs. What they gonna do? Are they gonna fold like Are they gonna fold like a cheap suit, or are they gonna show some cojones and ride it out to the Super Bowl NFC Championship game to uncharted territories? Because I think it's been like 1990 since they won a playoff game, 1991. So, that could be an interesting month. It's going to be an interesting month. See what are those mediocre 6-6 teams separate themselves. Can Philly separate from Dallas? Can Dallas overtake Philly? Can the Steelers figure it out? And the Buffalo. Those are my two big disappointments right now. Can they figure it out? Uh, I don't know. We'll see. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win the divisions? Who do you think is going to make the playoffs? Of those 6-6 teams, Who do you think's the most dangerous that could pull off an upset or two in the playoffs? Who could be that 2007 Giant team that comes out of nowhere and goes on a run? We'll see. That's why I love sports. That's why it's the greatest reality TV show. That's why it's the best show on TV because it's never the same. Every time you think you have the NFL figured out, it never is the same. And then tomorrow is one of the best football games. Uh, watch the Army Navy game. Army Navy game is spectacular. This year it's in Gillette Stadium. I even saw Bill Belichick is going to be the guest picker on game day, so that should be interesting to see what kind of personality he comes out with. He seems to be like that guy that's serious but has that dry humor that you're not sure if he's joking or serious, so you just stare at him. Uh, the Army Navy is great because 99.9% of those guys, it's it's their last football game for the seniors. They're not going to go to the NFL. They're going to go report to their active duty and protect our nation. It's the only game where the opponents become teammates, so to speak, one day. Uh, the pomp and circumstance of it. My bucket list is to get to an Army Navy game. Um, I want to see one. I want to get to one. So I hope one day I'm able to get to one. My dad was in the Navy. My brother was in the Army Reserves. So the game has, that's why I'm wearing the USA hat today. The game does have, personal meaning to me because of my brother and father being in the armed service, armed forces, the service, Army and Navy. So I don't usually cheer for a winner. Uh, I like to watch, you know, the game. I like to watch the players. I like to see, the wins. I like to see the emotion after the game where they're each playing their song, and it's just a great tradition. And I hope everybody in America tunes in for a little bit just to get a sense that it's more than football. I know people say, "Oh, it's just a game," but to these kids, it's not just a game. Um, like I said, 99% of these kids, they're not going to the NFL. So for these seniors, unless they go to a bowl game, this is their final game. Then they're going to go graduate and they're going to go defend their country, and that is something that they don't take lightly. To give up. Uh, they could have went to other schools possibly. They could have gone to Division 1 schools, Division 1 AA schools. They could have um, maybe make it to the NFL in the right situation if they went to a good school. But these kids want to serve their country. These kids want to be American naval and army military members, and I applaud them for that. It's selfless. Uh, I hope I hope they're all safe. I hope nothing happens to them once they go into their active duty. In my opinion, if something comes to war, then we have failed everybody. War should not be an answer, uh, but it is. It's a reality. And those Army and Navy football players, I'm glad they're defending my back, my family's back, this country's back when the time comes for them. God bless to those who serve. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show. And what are your thoughts on the Army Navy game? Have you been to one? What's it like if you've been to one? Uh, what what do you look for when you're watching Army Navy? You know, in this day and age, right now more than ever, it just seems like everybody's on edge, and the military is. Uh, a lot of things happen, especially what's happening in the Middle East over there. A lot of things happen, so I hope everyone stays safe. Uh, well, that's it for this week. Hopefully the Eagles win, and hopefully next week's show I'll be in a better mood. Uh, and with that being said, Arrivederci.